Hi, everyone. I'm Jacob from Cludo. I'm very happy to have you all join us. And today we're having a conversation on elevating the digital campus, how search and AI are transforming higher ed. We'll hear how two very different universities, Boise State University and the University of Bristol, are rethinking search and chat to create a smarter, student-centered digital experience with Cludo. Before we jump in, just a few quick housekeeping notes. First, we are recording today's session, so we'll send the replay link to everybody who attended, and everybody else who registered it can watch it on demand afterwards. And secondly, if you have any questions during this session, we will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And if you write a comment, we can show it for everyone who's participating and everybody who's watching. And don't worry, you as a viewer, you're on mute, so we won't hear you, so you don't need to manage your audio. And yeah, with that out of the way, welcome again, and I'll pass it over to Sarah to introduce Cludo a little bit. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Hey, Jacob. Thank you so much for starting us off. If this is your first time with Cludo, as Jacob said, we're a AI-driven site search and chat tools, and we have higher ed specifically in mind. I'm the AE here for higher education, and our platform really helps universities improve usability, accessibility, while giving teams more control of how the content is actually found, either with natural language or keywords. And so Cludo is a software as a service. This is a little bit light coloring here, but you can see on the left-hand side, all the things that go into the front-end experience of site search, AI summary, and AI chat. We have the back-end, which is called My Cludo, that has a dashboard, analytics, search tools, some WYSIWYG editors for front-end experiences. You'll be able to also do configurations. And we do give recommendations as part of our tool to help identify where issues might be with your site search and what you can tweak on the back end. And then we're very flexible on the front end. So we have templates and professional services. Otherwise, you can build something out with the API or React component library. And then all of this is supported with our customer success manager, tech support, help center, and sales engineers. Also, at the end of today's session, we'll share 3 QR codes linking to resources. One is best practices on search configuration, tailored for higher ed, so you can use that either with MyCludo or you can use it with your own site search provider. And then we also have an AI for higher ed, which is specifically talking about how Cludo thinks about AI-generated responses and all the safeguards we're putting into place to make sure that it's very relevant, accurate, and people can trust those responses. And then there'll be a third QR code if you want to get in touch with me. I'm happy to chat. So I am excited to introduce you to two of our speakers who've taken 2 very different but equally thoughtful approaches to improving site search at their institutions. First up will be Shad Jessen, who is an executive director, University Web Strategy, Support, and Engagement at Boise State University. Shad brings a deeply strategic perspective to the work of campus search. We'll talk with Shad about his team priority, how his team prioritizes relevance, navigates content governance, and is testing AI tools to better support their diverse audiences. And then we'll hear from John Bourne, who is the Senior Digital Product Manager at the University of Bristol. At Bristol, search is more than just a back-end tool. It's a strategic part of their student experience. John's team made the conscious decision to treat on-site search as a key part of both recruitment and retention. We'll talk to him about what led them to make that shift and specific challenges they face with their previous search solution and what mattered most when evaluating new tools like Cludo. So let's start with Shad.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Shad. So nice to see you here today, and thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And I think a good introduction to get us going here is if you could give us a quick overview of Boise State's web environment.
Sure. So we use WordPress as our primary CMS, and we have about 630 WordPress sites that add up to a total of 70,000 pages. I wish it was 700. We have about 1,500 content editors, which is way too many. And my web strategy team consists of about 5 people, which is way too few. And then we have an additional 75 affiliated university websites that are hosted externally.
Yeah, managing 1,500 editors and 630 websites and all 70,000 pages sounds very daunting. So, how does Cludo help you help simplify that complexity for you?
So what I really like about Cludo and how it helps me is that I can see problems immediately as they occur by looking at the dashboard at what is going on at any given moment. I can see what searches are working for people, what searches are not working for people. I can easily investigate why those searches may not be working, what the intent is of those searches. And I can go in within moments and fix problems that I see. I can also figure out quickly, maybe there are multiple pages that are coming up that whereas someone's looking for a particular page, they're getting results that are confusing, or that maybe the metadata for those pages are just confusing. And I can go in and fix those easily too. So the analytics tools within Cludo really complement the other governance platforms that we use, and Google Analytics, and really complement that suite to just give me a host of options to figure out how to solve problems as soon as I see them.
I think one of the stories that I like to share too about your setup is the dead link. So Intelligent 404, I know that you would see a lot of those 404 issues, and when you would see them, you could actually backtrack where they came from. And in one instance, that was changing out a syllabus, or at least letting that professor know, or professors know, like, hey, you might be linking to a resource that's no longer there. So when you first started with Cludo, I could let you add on to that.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's a good example, because that syllabus was actually in our learning management system, which we don't have analytics for. But the fact that Cludo was able to tell me what the source was, that it was the LMS, helped me work with the team that does manage the LMS and determine which professor particularly had that syllabus, and allowed me to contact the professor. And we were able to do that within 15 minutes. And so that was a nice add-on, value add for that 404 module.
Right. And when you use web governance tools, I feel like what happens is you get broken links on the website page. But when you're talking about all those other PDFs and WordPress or Word documents that get used by non-website editors, then yeah, you can't really track that through those types of tools. So when you first started with Cludo, what were some of the biggest challenges you inherited, and how did you approach making search a priority?
Well, due to circumstances, I had to inherit Cludo overnight. And while I had been involved in the decision to purchase the application many years ago, I hadn't been involved at that point with managing it. So I had to learn overnight why decisions were being made, what were the differences between page rankings, boostings, banners, etc., and how they can work together. And then I had to figure out what to prioritize, as well as what I needed to review from a governance perspective, whether on a daily basis or on the 4 hours I spend every Friday doing more in-depth search governance and quality assurance governance. And it was relatively easy for me to figure that out. I hadn't had any training before, and I probably should have. The first thing I should have done is contact you, Sarah, to say, I need help. Can you train me? But I didn't. We had a lot of other things going on then. But figuring out why you might want to use page rankings to deliver, say, 5 results for a specific keyword search, versus maybe you want to add weight to a certain page for searches, or decrease weight from other pages for searches. It helped me see search in a new light, local search in a new light, and it's worked out really well for strategic control of local search.
Right. And we did see a video of like a banner that you've set up for highly accessed resources like the calendars. And I think first we're seeing the back end, which is more of like a CMS for site search. So it's really easy to edit. And then on the front end, you can see how visually it's a little bit different to help users find those resources pretty quickly.
Mhm.
And I know one of the introductions to you first, I was just getting to know, like, what are your bigger strategic goals? So we talked through your retaining students, you're becoming R1 research university, attracting and retaining, I should say, students, becoming an R1 research university and building community. How does your site search strategy align with those bigger goals?
Yeah, we're in the middle of what we're calling an enterprise web project, where we are determining what the future roadmap of our entire web footprint is going to be. And there are a lot of things that are happening at once, and a lot of things are going to be happening through the end of the calendar year to achieve that. But what we're primarily going to be doing is trying to focus our website more on, as you said, recruiting students, retaining existing students, and then move a lot of the stuff that really does not strategically align with those goals to an intranet platform, to just other properties, to try to focus more on the student experience, and using Cludo to be able to determine what are students searching for. That's one of the foundational analytics that we look at quite often, is what are students actually searching for, and how do those searches change throughout the academic year, as between the time students start the semester, between the middle of the semester, and then at the end of the semester, like we are now here at Boise State. A lot of the searches right now are for commencement, for where do I buy my regalia for the commencement ceremony. A lot of searches are for housing for students who are planning to come to the university in the fall. And so how do we strategically focus our website and the student journeys on those different points that are happening within the academic year, each quarter, each semester? And that's something that we're paying a lot of attention to, that we haven't paid as much attention to before.
Yeah, and I think that's smart. I think we talked about that one of the first meetings, is that, yeah, you're oftentimes logging in at the beginning of the school year more frequently, and maybe during busy times, like you're saying, the end of the school year, when people really need to find the answer and need to find it quick, so you can address those types of issues if there are any with site search. So, talking through analytics and seeing if there are issues. I know one specific example is like how you handled the discontinued culinary arts program. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so one of the challenges of Google's AI overviews search results is that sometimes they will present material from sources that Google views as trusted sources that are way out of date. And in particular, we noticed last year that they were referencing an article about the university from Encyclopedia Britannica that had information that was probably 13 years old. We used to have a vocational school at the university 13 years ago, and got moved to a community college. But that information was still being presented by Google as one of the very first search results when you search for the university. So we had a lot of people trying to come to our website to search for the culinary arts program. And of course, they were getting nothing because we had no program here to speak of. So I first put up a page that basically said, we don't have a culinary arts program here anymore. It was paraphrasing. But then I realized, that's kind of dumb, because do I need to then put up a page for every other program that gets discontinued that people might be looking for? So because culinary arts seem to be searched for the most, for whatever reason, I just decided to set up a quick link to immediately direct those results to the College of Southern Idaho, which is where the state's the only other college in Idaho, I should say, the state of Idaho, that has a culinary arts program. And that seems to have worked really well. We don't get ineffective search results or attempts anymore for people searching for culinary arts. They go right to the College of Southern Idaho website, and they can determine then if that's something that they're interested in.
Right. And I think those tools and those configurations are really great for content you don't want to muddy up your main site search. And also, you don't want to muddy up your own website content with things that don't really matter for your goals. So for other schools that are evaluating or launching Cludo, what advice would you give them? And what are some of the common mistakes or pitfalls schools should watch out for?
Well, the first thing I would say is that search it takes work. It's a process. You have to give it TLC every single day. You have to keep on top of it, because if you don't, you're going to have work building up, technical debt that you have to take care of later. And so you may have to make sure you've got the resources and time available to allocate to looking at your metrics, determining intent, and making changes and adjustments as needed. I think too, something to think about with Cludo that I really didn't know about until recently was that we can configure multiple crawlers and engines for different needs. For example, we're currently piloting an AI search tool within Cludo, and being able to limit that pilot to our 9 sites that are associated with IT or to our policy site has really helped in terms of just getting good results for testing and trying to prevent people from getting the idea that they can search the entire university during the pilot, because we're really trying to just focus right now on searching pockets of content here and there. And then the other thing, and I mentioned this earlier, is reaching out to your vendor. You know, you, Sara, you and your team have been so responsive and helpful to us, and that's not something we find with a lot of other vendors. And so, you know, thank you for that, and you've been a big help.
We mutually appreciate awesome customers like you too. And I'm so sorry, I did skip one question, and this is a big one that people are going to want to hear more about. You kind of touched on it here, is that you're currently testing the AI chat with Cludo and also AI summary eventually on your Office of Technology. And so when you're talking about setting up separate engines for different use cases, that's an example of that. So I guess, what have you learned so far as deploying the AI or deploying AI in higher education site search?
Well, the first thing that surprised me was that a lot of people are not using the AI search using natural language. They are using keywords or a phrase just like they would with traditional search. And so you're trying to train the AI to use natural language to return the search results you like, but then you also have to make sure the AI is trained so that if somebody is entering a single keyword or a short phrase, that those results are going to come up as well. And so that's been a little challenging and surprising. And then the other thing that I learned was, don't ask your IT colleagues to test the AI tool. Ask the actual users you have on campus who are searching your content, your target audience, because a lot of my IT colleagues just thought they were interacting with an instance of ChatGPT, and they were asking questions like, you know, show me an image of an alien eating French fries, which was not helpful. And I'm sure they were disappointed too. But you know, it's challenging because but the people who are using natural language search are using it in so many different ways. Just a single topic like how do I apply for graduation can be asked, you know, 15 different ways, in ways that I would never think somebody is going to ask. But because of people's cultural backgrounds, because of the way their brains are wired, because of just how they talk, it's completely different. And trying to account for all of those different searches and realizing you're trying to change the intent of search from keywords and key phrases to relationships between entities, topics, and concepts. That's been challenging, and it's something we're still working on, but the pilots are going well. And we recently added traditional search to that widget because I found a lot of people were just treating the AI search like traditional search, and they were searching outside of our IT content for this pilot testing. And so by adding the traditional search, which is covering the entire university, they're able to find information about housing while they're on the IT website, or information about employee benefits while they're on policy website.
Right. Yeah, I feel like you kind of bring up some good thoughts too, like just thinking about how AI chat and using natural language. I'm just like, how does our content actually answer those questions versus keywords is almost like we need to stuff the keyword into different metadata. It's a different strategy altogether. So I think that you've been very thoughtful in how you're getting this set up, specifically setting up engines with just that subsite. I think we have like 5, 6 subsites that only are OIT. So that's why we can't find a picture of an alien eating French fries. So yeah, if somebody's overwhelmed with a huge website and lots of stakeholders, where would you recommend they start improving their search setup?
Well, one thing I've noticed is that our stakeholders really hold fast to assumptions about visitors. They'll say, our students are searching for such and such, so you need to adjust search to make that happen. But when I look at the analytics actually don't necessarily reflect that. And so being able to provide data, whether it's from Cludo, whether it's from a governance tool, whether it's from Google Analytics, to those stakeholders and say, well, no, you might think your audience is searching for this, but here's what they're actually searching for. Here's the actual language that they're searching for. That it brings to mind the adage, "You are not the user," where you really have to look at the analytics and test with your targeted audiences to understand what people are searching for and how they're searching, and you have to analyze those engagement analytics to determine why searches are effective and why some are not, and then help the stakeholders understand that to work together to find solutions and improve search on their content.
I think that's such a great idea. And I mean, I have so many stories of people telling me, like, oh, yeah, we want the banner, the carousel image to have student stories. Well, no one's clicking it. So, yeah, analytics, whether it's site search or just website as a whole, is always going to be important. But yes, thank you, Shad, for all your insights. With that, we're going to pass it over to Jacob and John.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Sara. Thank you, Shad. We'll say goodbye to you for a few minutes. And here's John. Thank you, John, for joining. How are you today?
Hey, good to be with you. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Awesome. And we're very happy to have you. We're going to dig into a little bit of how University of Bristol approached on-site search. So my first question to you is, why did your team decide to treat on-site search as a strategic priority rather than just a functional tool?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, our team came to the realization, I think, that good search isn't a nice to have. It's just simply expected from the audience now. I think, whether that's prospective students or current students or whatever, that it's important for them to be having a good experience. We were able to sort of articulate to our senior management that how critical it was. We were seeing that half our website visits were using search, and we could see that around half of prospective students who were coming to our site wanted to find course information and things like that using search. So, and the expectations changing all the time with that generation, that they expect your website to almost already know what they want rather than having to search for it even. So the expectation is so high. So I think as soon as we were really able to articulate that to our senior management and show how little control we had over our current search solutions, it was definitely seen as a priority for us strategically. And the other thing that was really important to me was making sure that the outcome of the project wasn't, the success wasn't defined by the fact that we had a new search solution just plugged in and in use. It's really important that the outcome of all of this is that our users are having a much better experience finding content and finding things as quickly as they can and as easily as they can, rather than just replacing some IT solutions or replacing legacy stuff, which is pretty important to us. But unless the users, of which they have all our different users have different needs, if they weren't finding the content, it was useless.
It's quite remarkable what you mentioned there, that over half of all your visitors, they actually use the search bar, right? they're finding information on their own.
Yeah, we sort of similar to what Shad was talking about there. We've been working quite hard with our intranet. We still get a lot of staff come through our main central site search, but we have a lot of sort of micro searches, I suppose, across the rest of our website where we have a lot of interaction with just trying to find things. So yeah, a lot of people who land on our site do use search to some extent through their journey.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. So I would also like to ask you about any specific pain points or limitations in previous search solutions that led you to explore an alternative like Cludo?
Sure. I think, a lot of our current tools were quite sort of blunt instruments, I think, when it came to search and how we were using them. So we wanted a lot more control over how those search results were presented and how we were able to, have a bit of editorial control over how things were being used. So Cludo really helped us sort of give tools like, synonyms and spelling errors and how we were able to manage how people were using it, but then also things like banners. Again, as Shad has mentioned, how they're using banners, but things like our current students, it was clear like a lot of people were searching for very, there was a clear sort of top 10 things that people were looking for. So being able to direct people straight away using banners for things like timetables, where maybe downloading our student app is the most important thing for them. It was nice to be able to have a real control over what we were able to present to them. And also, we had quite a lot of legacy, like I said, legacy services. I think, aligning with our sort of IT teams to provide solutions that didn't. We had a lot of maintenance overheads, with a variety of solutions that in turn then knocks onto the user experience of those tools because we can't keep them updated effectively and we don't have that control. So reducing that kind of overhead is really important to us. And something like Cludo just gave us a lot of freedom on the front end to be able to, deliver a search solution that was right for a multitude of services that we've got.
Yep. And when evaluating Cludo, what were the most important criteria considered to ensure it would fit the needs of prospective students and current students?
Yeah, so I think we obviously have that kind of different user groups. I think with current students, prospective students, I think with that comes the different needs. And I think one of the things that Cludo had where we were able to assign different engines to different types of search, like our course pages versus a different engine for our current students, meant that we could boost and amend the types of content that were most important to those audiences so that the search results could be more effective. So, searching for accommodation as a prospective student is a lot different to searching for accommodation as a current student. So having that kind of ability to manage that detail was really important to us. And like I said, we use the API. We have a sort of specific front end build for how we use Cludo, and that was really important to have a service that had a really good REST API for us to use, and that's been really positive for us and a really good experience so far.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And do you have any unexpected insights or lessons that came along when implementing Cludo?
A couple, I suppose. There was we have a lot of complexity, I suppose, maybe in how we have our courses set up across different postgraduate and undergraduate courses with multiple years. At the same time, in using the crawler, sometimes it was a bit challenging, I suppose, to direct it exactly at what we wanted, to limit it to the right thing. So having the ability to just be able to upload our XML sitemaps was really, really, really important for us, and that's worked out a lot better for us for certain parts of how we're using Cludo. And then also, I think, it became clear quite quickly. It wasn't necessarily an unexpected insight, but I think it was something we learned quite quickly, was just how critical quality control around the wider content and content governance is. We're in a similar position to what Shad mentioned, with a lot of different web editors who are creating content, and no matter how good that search solution is, the quality of the content is the thing that is getting surfaced. So it's that was definitely a lesson, I suppose, in how quickly we were able to roll certain things out.
Right. And how did you start with the rollout of Cludo to your website? Was it done in phases, or was it strategically decided upon which parts of the website?
Yeah, it's definitely in phases, and we're still in the middle of it, I suppose. We're still looking to move on to our wider site search. I think as a product manager, I'm all kind of trying to balance out that user and business and technical needs that we have here. And I think they all kind of aligned when we started talking about search, and we obviously want to be iterating on how we're using, how we're delivering some of our services. And the current students area was the first thing that came up for us. We had a really good opportunity with a new team that was being developed around that. It was quite nice and contained pieces of content. It was easy to crawl, and all of that in turn kind of led us to go with that as a first foray into how we were going to use Cludo. And it was great because we could learn really quickly. We could implement it really quickly across the site. We just used the sort of scripting element of Cludo just to embed it within the site, and it was easy for us to just see how effective it was becoming, and let us move on to the next thing. So once we'd done that, we moved into course search, which again was quite a nice contained thing for us to address. We sort of controlled the development of it and controlled the content within it. So it was nice to be able to do those kind of steps and learn quite a lot about how we could be using things before we're moving on to other things. And the next thing for us is around our wider site search and how we can utilize that effectively across our entire estate.
Right. So you're kind of midway through the whole rollout until the final point. And what kind of feedback mechanisms or insights do you use to measure the impact of the new site search?
Yeah, so we use Google Analytics a lot to as a broad level websites of analytics thing, and the Cludo's dashboards do kind of complement that really well. We monitor regularly, in particular with our team, around courses and programs, and we look at mostly effective and ineffective searches. It's amazing to be able to take action just instantly off the back of seeing how things are ineffective, and you can see most of the time it's being able to tweak synonyms or tweak banners and things that mean that we can take that immediate action. We try and have that sort of regular check-in and around key moments of our how things roll around with the prospective student cycle, with open days coming up, with certain deadlines for applying and things like that. And we can feed back a lot of that insight, I think, back to our sort of wider marketing teams about what sort of things people are searching for at what particular times. And it's it's really good to be able to feed that kind of information back quite instantaneously.
Yeah, and that's also something I wanted to ask you about, because you have about 900 content editors. Is that right?
Yeah, about that at the moment.
And so that's a whole lot of people to inform. But what other stakeholders have you had who were involved in shaping the search strategy and the priorities of the new site search?
Yeah, like I said, I'm trying to consider all the user, business, and technical aspects of what we're doing within search, and we sit within the brand marketing and digital team here at the university. I think it's probably about 50-50 across at least the UK higher education, whether you're in IT or you're in a marketing team, and we're in the marketing side of it. So working with our IT colleagues was pretty key, and I think they helped almost get us kicking off with this, with that kind of view on the legacy. Things just need to be switched off, old things need to go, and we needed to help that with what we were able to bring with introducing Cludo. And so that aligns quite well. And then we worked again very closely with our student support. I think that we were able to see with them how, where they were looking hard at their content design, that search was just missing at the start of that. The site-wide search wasn't doing the right thing for that user group. So introducing search specifically for current students to find key bits of information, it was really transactional. They wanted to get in, find something, and get on with their lives, and that was that meant that having search was really important. So we work well with them around their sort of key priorities. And then, we work closely with admissions and other areas of business to take that insight to show how users are interacting with particular courses at particular times and support their work, and they're able to give us good insight to know how we might want to tailor some of our results to make things effective to their wider strategy.
Right. Yeah. And as a final question, if somebody is considering a new search platform for their site, what will be your top advice when it comes to balancing the needs of the technical side and also the user experience goals that you might have?
Yeah, I think it's quite easy. I think, like, certainly for us, I think that the voice of IT is quite loud, and that there's a lot of legacy and there's a lot of weight there that things need to be addressed and fixed. But I think it's important for me to really be the voice of the customer in that and talk about what needs to really change to make effective change for our users. And while those new tools will give more control and options, like, the content is the most important thing. Like, if the metadata is not right, or the way the content structured isn't right, or it's simply duplicate information and we're telling people two different things, that's what people are going to see. So I've seen that using search as a bit of a Trojan horse to go in and say that, well, this is how our content is being displayed to all these users, and this is what they're searching for, and this is what they're finding, helps that conversation quite well. So we've tried to use it like that and show the kinds of experience people are really having on the ground, and kind of like Shad said again with the whole "you are not your users" adage. I think showing managers, other people, stakeholders who aren't really looking at how the site is working on the ground and have their opinions and subjectively looking at how things are working, showing that with clear evidence, clear data and stuff, that this content that we're creating isn't working well for users, and it's being surfaced in this way about how we want people to be finding it and how they want to be finding it is really, really valuable to change the way that those stakeholders think. And again, like, it's important that insight that is being gathered through how effective search isn't just used by the team. Like, it's easy just to sort of see it, quickly react to it, and make the change, and everything's a bit better. And I think getting people to see how we're able to change it and make the experience better, helps us as a team, look good, and how we're reacting to those sort of things, but also gives people that kind of true to life perspective on what website content is being searched for, what we're missing, and discover its sort of usefulness or not.
Yeah, so the search data, basically the insights you use into the long-term content strategy that you might do with the content team, and given that there's so many people, there's going to be a lot of opinions, and then you can always show, okay, that's great, great idea. This actually supports this fact, or maybe it disproves it based on the activity on the website.
Yeah, exactly. It's really valuable.
Perfect. Well, thank you, John. We're going to bring back Sara and Shad and open up a four-way conversation here. Welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back. We do have a first question from Steve for Shad. So, what were the circumstances involving inheriting Cludo overnight? Was it being managed by another area like IT that transitioned it to your area's responsibility?
No, we had it's a long story, but just to make it really short, we had a personnel change in our communications and marketing office, and I got a call from the new vice president in that office the next day that basically said, "We've had a personnel change. We need you to take on all the work of the people who were doing that, and I can't give you any resources." So we had to figure out overnight how to, not only inherit Cludo, but inherit all of the other responsibilities of a couple of individuals. And it took some time, but we were able to eventually figure out how to do that well.
The second question here from Steve is, can you talk more about natural language keyword search and how it differs from the AI experience in Cludo tools? There was an earlier mention of training the tool to account for relational experiences or intent behind what they are searching for as opposed to keywords alone.
So in terms of natural language keyword search, it's how the AI in Cludo, at least from my understanding, works is that it's using an LLM to process the context of the search, and then it's referencing the index of your content to deliver results. So instead of if you ask ChatGPT today a question or try to search in ChatGPT, it's going to search everywhere and everything, unless you tell it specifically to limit its search to a particular domain. Whereas with Cludo's AI search, it's just searching your own content. So the possibilities of hallucinations are in your results are far fewer than it would be if you were searching with an LLM. But just in terms of natural language, it's again, my example of how do I apply for graduation? Somebody may say, how do I apply for commencement? In a traditional search, that information may not come up if the search tool doesn't understand the relationship between commencement and graduation. Or where do I buy, or where do I live stream the event is another question people might ask. And unless you make that relationship with the AI, that if they say that during a particular time during the year, they're looking primarily for the commencement live stream, then the search may not understand that at all. So it's trying to concentrate more with the AI search part of Cludo. It's trying to concentrate more on relationships between topics and concepts rather than the traditional algorithm search that we use, where we're just typing in a keyword or maybe two keywords and expecting results to come from that. And the difference is in how you respond to those types of searches, and the tools you have available in Cludo to influence those searches are such that really looking into how to improve AI search is a completely different beast rather than trying to figure out how to improve traditional search. And so you have to make sure you allocate the time necessary to now deal with AI search as well as deal with traditional search in terms of enhancing and improving the local search experience.
Thank you, Shad. And then as far as like the technical side, I could speak to that. We've kind of soft launched a tool on the back end called hybrid search. So it combines both keyword search as well as vector databases so that keywords more precise with the keywords. That's what we're used to when we do a search. But the vector is more like relationship. It understands the intent. It turns all the words into ones and zeros. And so it can be a little bit more, it can search across multiple different content across your website. And so that on the back end, coupled with the LLM, we're using ChatGPT's 4.0 mini. And then we have those tools that can adjust relevancy. We also have, if you have content gaps, you can put in static responses. So there's a number of layers when we're talking about the AI accuracy that we combat with both technical, like automation with some of that, as well as the manual setup. Because as Shad was alluding to, it's just content on your website with the top 3 results. So any influence you can have on those top 3 results for Cludo's AI summary, AI chat will help determine the most accurate response back. So
I actually have a little follow-up on that question on AI chat to John. Has University of Bristol considered AI chat in the future?
Yeah, I think it's something that's been considered, and I think there's a lot of work going in about where we choose to use it and where we choose not to. It's not something we're taking up on a great level, I think, at the moment. I think we're quite tentative around it. I think everyone can see the benefit, and we're looking at it from a sort of automation within internal teams about how we're able to improve business processes. A little less probably from the external kind of facing parts right now. But I think I'm quite hopeful, I think, in the future that I think that kind of, I don't know. I hope that things will change rapidly, clearly, with how it's being used and how people want to be using. And I'm hopeful it's kind of going to take away some of the kind of more, I think, perceived robotic nature of how search works, and also that kind of like the chatbot kind of mentality, and turn it into like an extent, especially when it comes to student support and the current student kind of atmosphere, that kind of warmth that we want to provide, the kind of feeling of like this is for you, and bring people along with it, that it kind of moves away from that kind of robotic nature of it and turns into a bit more of a real experience that people can have.
Yeah,
so I'm hopeful that sort of stuff we can look to in the future.
That's quite right. That's also what we hear from our customers and prospective customers, that they want to have more human control over the responses that the AI chat gives, because it can be very robotic, as you just mentioned, right? And yeah, that is something that we're also working very hard on and want to offer our clients. All right. So do we have anything more? Any more questions? Or
yeah, I have
how's
a
it look?
question. I have a question for Shad. What does the typical workflow look like for you when it comes to managing site search and digital strategy? We kind of touched on that a little bit, but how often are you getting into Cludo?
So I'm in Cludo every day. I keep the dashboard up pretty much all day long, so I can glance at it and see if anything is happening that I should know about, or that I can take action on immediately. Otherwise, I do deep focus on search and quality assurance and some other website issues every Friday. Monday mornings, I take a look at what's been going on over the weekend. And then I also work very closely, even though I'm in IT, I work very closely with our communications and marketing department. So I'm actually kind of an adjunct member of communications and marketing on campus. And I can check in with that team to just make sure that I'm aligned with what is the most important thing at any given time with our website that we should be surfacing or should be focusing on. And I can make sure search is optimized for those events in time as they occur.
We got a question in here. Well, kind of. So not a question, but interested in how AI search can be a big driver for pushing web content publishers to take more responsibility in ensuring their content is high quality and up to date. Any insight into that? I think this one would be also good for both of you to answer. But I liked when John was talking about the Trojan horse. Maybe if you want to start with that and talk how content is still king,
Yeah, exactly. I think that's part of, it's kind of not so much how we're using search and things, but I think that kind of using that as, I think one of the first things that people in the content space tried to look at AI for is kind of almost doing the job for them. And I think that is something I'm keen to steer people away from. And I think, well, to some degree, I think that when you have that number of web editors, it's impossible almost to make sure everyone's doing the right thing all the time. So utilizing some tools to keep people to recognize where things maybe aren't being done in an effective way. And then if you looked at how you were implementing a search strategy around certain bits that are being boosted in search, certain things that are being, searched for quite heavily, being able to call out how people might want to tailor their content to be more effective in that space would be amazing. We don't do that really across what we're doing now, but it is something that we thought about, and I think it's something in particular around course content because of its relationship to search. So where people are, maybe trying to over-explain something about the part-time, full-time arrangements of a course, or where you have freedom to free text in something that actually is kind of quite data-driven, to be more formulaic about how people are writing it in certain ways and give a bit of assistance to those people is something we're kind of looking at, but haven't got too far, I'd say.
I think from my perspective, we deal a lot with what we call the source of truth, which is we have duplicated content on certain pages, and the AI seems to often return content that may not be the source of truth. And so it's a lot of work to go in and try to steer the AI in the right direction. So if somebody is searching for information about a course, they're going to find, we want them to find the updated, most relevant information in our course catalog, not the blog on the history website talking about how this course was introduced last year and how people love it. And so the AI has seemed to help in terms of its ability to expose unoptimized content, or content that's being returned that really shouldn't be the content being returned, and allow us to make some changes to just try to make sure we're always directing people to that source of truth.
And from my perspective on the vendor side, I think just doing QA checks of AI implementations and using keyword search versus hybrid search. I'm doing a search maybe of 12 terms that are just one single word. And then it's interesting to talk through a hybrid search and seeing how it generates a response. When I change up that one word to like a question and how a student might pose it, then I'm looking at the content and I'm like, well, this content doesn't answer this question. And like how we've optimized content in the past has been more for those keywords. So like, is the keyword in the header? Like, is it within the content? Versus now it's kind of flipping it to, is it answering the questions that students really want to get answered?
And it also focuses on, for us, trying to teach our 1,500 content editors how to create content that is conversational, because that is what the AI is looking for. Does it answer the question? So is the content written in a way that it does answer the question? And how do we change the content to use the voice of our target audience, less of using the voice of academics?
Right. I think both of you kind of answered this throughout the session, but have you learned anything surprising or unexpected about the user behavior from your search analytics?
I think I certainly have. I think we've obviously made a handful of not site-wide search, but like micro search for the courses and current students and things like that. And I think I was surprised, I suppose, once we had availability of analytics in a bit of a better way, how many people were still searching for keywords that aren't necessarily related to that particular search area. People are just using the box to search for things. So I think when that's the case, and we've cordoned off maybe just courses for that particular search, and people are getting quite frustrated and not clicking through to anything, being able to direct people away and utilize banners and things like that has been really, really valuable. I think, we find, on course pages, people will search for open days and information around it, for example. Like it's a prospective student kind of search, and if that's what they're doing, then we need to react to it. So that capability to be able to do that's been really, really good, and it's been a little learning curve.
I feel like you're in good company here, because that's what I hear a lot on calls, is that even if you have the hyperlink to the student portal, if you have the hyperlink to the LMS right next to the search bar, people are going to still search for it. And they want to just get to it quickly, so you can use a quick link. And then also just even the smaller liberal arts colleges are going to have so many different types of search experiences across their website. So when it's just funny to hear like your course search, people are just going to treat it like a search bar, even though it clearly is labeled, this is a course search. So they're looking for those open days. They're looking for, whatever it may be. And it's like, well, this is for courses, so you're not going to find it here. So you can just help them out. Like, hey, redirect, here's a banner. You should actually go look at this page for that.
Exactly, yeah. Try and make it seamless.
For Shad, looking ahead, what is your ideal future state for for AI? And where do you hope to take the search experience?
Well, my ideal future state is to be able to provide a tool to the campus that meets all of their needs. But the needs are so varied right now that we're just getting hit left and right with people saying, I want this on my website. I want this on my website. And so we're using our enterprise search project that I mentioned earlier, our enterprise web roadmap that we're working on to determine what the scope of AI is going to be for potentially 1 or 2 products. And then we're still going to allow certain areas like our extended studies group, our admissions group, to integrate AI tools that are catered specifically to the journey for the student, the search journey, the onboarding journey, the journey just about applying to the university and what that process is. So there are certain niche uses for AI that we want to make sure we're able to cater to. But in terms of search and just basically finding information, finding content, we're trying to work through that right now with people. And it's also hard too, because people will say, well, I've got an AI, it's not working well. Will you tell me what's wrong with it? And so they want us to drop what we're doing and help them specifically with their AI tool that they've made. And we just don't have the time or resources to do that right now. So I think my immediate future state is just to let the whole AI stuff settle down and be able to focus more strategically on it rather than just trying to satisfy everybody's desire for innovation through putting an AI tool on their website. I think we can get there, but there's a lot of stuff going on right now. We just have to work through it.
Right. And John, if you want to answer that too. Otherwise, we're pretty close on time, and we can pull up our final slide.
Just to reiterate really what Shad's just said. I think there's it's clearly quite hyped, and it's a big thing at the moment for a lot of people, and people experimenting different ways. But I think trying to move people back to caring about that content. It's still the content. It's still the thing that's getting surfaced. It's still the thing that the AIs or LLMs are reacting to. Spend time on that. If you can get that right, everything works. And I think the more drum banging we can do around that, the better.
Right. And we get that question too. Is it content or is it site search? Well, it's kind of both, but yeah, content makes it, you need to have that in place for us to also surface it. So, well, thank you so much for your time today and sharing everything that you've been working on. I have a couple of resources here to get in touch with myself, as well as there's a couple of QR codes for higher ed best practices. Some of the things we talked about today will be in that, as well as the AI for higher education, which has kind of the layers of how we think through how to do AI with Cludo. And that could be something that's useful just in general as you're evaluating solutions out there. With that, thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you, I guess, next time.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, Sara, for co-hosting our very first global Cludo webinar.
Yep.
And we'll see you soon again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.